What do you think about work-life balance?
Personally, fuck work-life balance. I don't want work-life balance. Humans long for time with friends, time with family. I long for work. I always thought to myself, in 10 years, I want to be the biggest player in our market in New Zealand. And it's taken some of our competitors 25 to get there. And I'm like, I'm not that guy. Winning comes first and having fun comes second. You know, if you win, a shit week turns good, but a shit week's shitter if you lose. So excited when an issue arises. I'm like, shit, yeah, I'll come and fix it. And everyone's like, fuck off, Izzy. I've probably only met one or two people that would probably be willing to work more than me. And now collectively combined, they're on the brink of 110 to 120. Let's go for a bill.
What's holding you back from getting to $1 billion?
Israel, Dad's been found dead. It was important for me to implement what my dad had taught me growing up, and that was to work hard, whilst often there's nothing to work hard for.
Even though I was living in my best mate's nana flat, I was still living better than I was when I was growing up. People talk about this startup grind and this. I was still living in the coolest room I'd ever lived in. I'm more energetic, more motivated. Every day I wake up, I feel more ambitious than I did the day before. Like, I would not tell my kid to start a business young, because it's brutal, man. Where's your ambition? We're the only guys that have jumped over the ditch and have given it a crack, do you know what I mean? It's like...
What's been the cost? Welcome to Chew the Fat. My name is Frank Grief, and I started this podcast after I sold a business for $180 million with my two brothers. It's part of my mission to raise $1 million for Children's Cancer Institute by writing a cookbook called Eat With Purpose. In this series, I'm going to bring different types of founders on for you can share in their journeys and their lessons and insights. I'm also going to bring on guests who are in the middle of scaling their business. I want to make sure the challenges are relative to you and make sure you can take insights that you can use in each and every day in your business. I hope you enjoy. So what do we need to know about you in your early years that made you the person you are today?
Probably as long as I can remember, like, working is always something that's been a key part of my life. I think I started my first job when I was 12, you know, and all I've ever known is work, and that's kind of all I've ever come to know. And that's what I love doing, man. You know, that gets me going. So my old man was a caretaker, and he kind of made me pretty quickly go and do 2 hours before school, 2.5 hours, 3 hours after school from the time I was, 12, year 8. I'm not sure if you guys do intermediate year. I don't think you do, but so work's all I've ever really known, and it's actually what I bloody love. So that's probably a key part of it.
Why do you love it so much?
Man, I think like it's a chance to win, and I think winning's the greatest feeling in the world. Do you know what I mean? Like, winning comes first and having fun comes second. No shit week feels shitter if you win. A shit week turns good. You know? But a shit week's shitter if you lose. So.
There's this interesting, I don't know, let's call it rhetoric out there, which is people talking about like, you shouldn't make your work your identity. And in the last few years, I've realized like, it's my identity. I'm okay with it. Where do you sit on that spectrum?
Oh, geez. It's absolutely my identity. You know what I mean? And I'm okay with it. Yeah. I think, anyone building a business at whatever size, you have to be aware and conscious that you're the brand and you're the business. So I'm sure when you get a bit older, you can start to break away from that. But geez, I'd happily have work as my identity.
So for those that don't know, do you want to give us a bit of a snapshot of the businesses that you've started? We'll get into the journey, but we'll just kind of touch on a little next, but just where it is today and any sense of scale you can give us to help paint the picture.
So I'm 31 now. When I was 21, I started a company called Auckland Labour Hire, which we've now transferred into, initially went to Aotearoa Labour Hire, and now we've basically trademarked Anywhere Labour Hire. So it's a recruitment company for temporary staff. Started it with $500. Today we're on track that we think we'll do 60 to 65 mil in revenue. 7.5 of that comes from Aussie, and the rest comes from New Zealand. Then when I was 24, I co-founded a interiors and fit out and construction company, and those guys are on track to do about 45 to 50 mil. So that gives some scale of where the two businesses are at. I'm non-operational in the interiors company. I now sit as a shareholder, but heavily invested in and consumed in the ALH journey that we're on. So that's the scale. We've got 12 branches, 13 branches, 2 in Aussie, 1 in Brizzy, 1 in Gold Coast, and the rest across New Zealand.
Okay.
And hopefully coming to the Sydney shores at some stage.
Yeah. I hope everybody's listening going, oh shit, okay. Okay. Let's get give me a bit of a snapshot of the journey. Now, I through my research, I've heard a couple of times you shared it, and so the last thing I want to do is ask the same question that everybody does.
Yeah.
But just like a little bit of a snapshot. You said you started at 21, $500, just so everybody can understand a little bit of what that journey looked like.
Yeah. So I had a couple of events that effectively I got put on academic leave from university because I'd failed so many papers. And I was miserable at it. I sucked in a classroom, and I kind of thought I'd wrecked my shoulder, got a dodgy heart, and I kind of thought, man, I'm up shit creek here without a paddle. Like, what am I going to do? And I loved building because I did building for 3 years, and I kind of thought I just want to create an environment and an atmosphere or a setting that people can come in, and no matter whether you're digging holes, digging trenches, you've got a surrounding system that you can be involved in that you love and you enjoy. And it makes a shitty job feel a bit better from having fun and being looked after. And that is what started it. I just wanted 5 people out, and I was going to feel like I was winning there. And then you start to get a bit of momentum. The avalanche starts coming down pretty fast, and you either hop off it, like a lot of entrepreneurs do, or you hang on and you just ride it and get amongst it. And try not to get buried. And that is generally what it came from, right? $500. I was working at Barker's, which is a clothing store, on a Sunday and a Thursday night, and then amongst it trying to afford my rent and stuff like that. I was living out in the sleep out. My best friend at the time's Nana flat, $120 was the rent, and I think I was making $250 a week. Living off Maggie soup cup noodles, $3 a day got me 3 noodles, and then 21 cans of Coke, no sugar a week. So I loved it, man, and shit. I think I grew up in a really humble home. Like, my old man was a caretaker. Our mum was didn't work, at times, but also did work, and we're a big family. So I think where I sat really fortunate is that even though I was living in my best mate's Nana flat, I was still living better than I was when I was growing up. So people talk about this startup grind and this grit and this horrible sleeping in this. Man, I was living the dream, I was still living in the coolest room I'd ever lived in. So, a little bit different now, but it's, and I think for me, that grind didn't feel any different. And I think I look back and I go, wow, like, you hear about people, how struggle it was, like, man, that was cool. It was happy days. I'm a creature of habit. So that environment that I was living in whilst working was amazing. Made it a hell of a lot easier.
You brought a smile to my face there because I'm a little bit guilty, right? And so I've, many times I've shared the story where, there's a point in our business where we had to go all in. I think it was like year 4, year 5. And so me and my brother were we had an investment property, we sold that, and we moved in with my now wife, his now wife, into this, this 2-bedroom apartment. And so that kind of sounds like a bit like, whoa. But the part of the story that doesn't quite make its way out there is the 2-bedroom apartment was in the next suburb over from here.
Yeah.
And so it was fucking tiny.
Yeah.
But it had ocean views. So it cost us $150 each a week to live in a shoebox, but we're looking out to the ocean and we're oh man, we've made it.
Yeah. But you know what, man? I think it's admirable when you have people that, like yourself, that still have that hunger when you can live better than people like what I did, right? It's actually not that common that you see people pushing through that have had it okay.
100%. And so how quick was this snowball? Because those are some pretty serious numbers that you're talking about now.
It got pretty quick, and before I knew it, it was probably too late to back out. All I ever wanted to be was a stockbroker, right? Yeah. I wanted to go to work in a suit every day, look cool, make heaps of money and drive cool cars. And I wanted that to be my stopgap until I got there. And then I remember year 1 we did 200K in revenue, 224K in revenue.
Solid.
Then year 2 we did 1.2.
Fuck.
Then we went to 3, and then went to then COVID happened, went to 6. And I remember, never forget, went to 14 and went from 14 to 32. And I was kind of hanging on, the wheels were wobbling, the steering bloody column was snapping. It was hectic. And then in year 3, I think it was at 6 mil year, that's when we started the fit out company. and perspective, I was still living in the sleep out, and I had no money personally because everything was going back into the business. I had to ring up my sister and ask for 50 grand, and she remortgaged her home.
Wow.
To give me 50 grand to make my contribution to this fit out company, you know? So I genuinely didn't feel like life changed too much for me, probably until about year 6 into ALH, year 7. And then, you know, but yeah, so those scales got pretty quick. And then I'm a competitive guy. I was kind of seeing the fit out company beat us, and then we get up and like, oh, come on, you know? It's kind of tit for tat, and you're like, oh no, like, God, these guys are beating me. But it was a really healthy relationship to have with your co-founders in another business that they're doing a great thing, but I always want to be great. I want to keep winning. You know what I mean? So, you know, there's probably a hell of a lot of appreciation and praise to be given to this fit out company that I'm a lot more silent on and less spoken out of. That was a huge motivator to make sure they never bet us. You know, and they did. A couple of years they bet us. I was like, shit, man, 2-0 down at the moment. We've got to keep going. So they came straight out the blocks. They did 8 mil in their first year.
What?
You know, it was crazy.
That's wild.
I thought it was real cool doing 6. And so that kind of lit another fuel of actually what's achievable. I kind of looked at that business and I went, man, these guys are doing a better job than me. They might be a bit older. They might have a bit more experience, but I want to make sure we're the guy. We're beating them this year. So that's the main thing. But yeah, so that was kind of where that scale point started to get to. And I never forget, you know, there's a couple of things that I've been incredibly fortunate to have a great board. I never forget I was in the airport once and ALH had just done a 32 mil year. The fit out business had just done 36. And I never forget saying to Rob, I said, oh man, you know, these businesses are great. He said, well, you've got a couple of decisions. He said, like, what does success look like to you? You know, I'd ask that question 100 times to people that join our team. And he said, you know, like, what do you want to be worth? Like, what does life look like for you? He goes, you know, if you're worth 100 million in New Zealand, it's a great life. You know, you can do a lot of things. He goes, or you kind of want to keep going, and then there's a big gap to that next kind of 500 or 1 billion. And I remember saying, fuck, I want 1 billion, man. You know, not because I want that next to I just want the challenge, and I love it. And I remember just having that conversation that really sparked a chord in me. And I was like, man, like, if I can have this conversation, I can have someone that's there saying, hey, this is achievable, but it's a hell of a journey. Should I rather go for that and end up at 100 mil than go for 100 and end up at 10? You know, and I think the more these businesses grows, it becomes less about what comes out the bottom and back to me. It's the bigger picture and where we can get this thing to, and hence why we're over in Aussie and trying to navigate our way around here.
Love it. What's your relationship with money?
I never had one because I never had any, you know. So whilst it was such a important thing for me to get security in, you know, we never starved and we never went without food. But geez, I was never going to a shop and getting new clothes every so often, you know. Like there was, I'm the youngest of 4, you know. I never forget, like my dad would always speak to me in multipliers of his salary, and he was on 36 grand a year. And there was 6 of us in our home, you know, plus our big ass uncle, who was only 2 years older than my older sister because he was a big gap and a big family. So there's kind of 5 of us, you know, and so everything he would do, you know, like I never forget, we were walking to church and this car came ripping through, and I was like, oh my goodness, what's that? Like we don't have supercars or cool cars in Gisborne, definitely at that stage. And he goes, it's a Porsche. I'm like, holy shit. What's that worth? He goes, that's 10 years of my salary. And I was like, where's that come from? He was like, Auckland. I was like, man, I got to go to Auckland one day. You know? So my relationship with money was always an imagination. I never felt it. I never really experienced it. And then once I started to probably earn some of it, I realised that whether you earn a few hundred or whatever, you can love your life and still kind of, you know, I've just on the brink of moving out of an apartment that I've lived in for 5 years. You know, I say to people, ALH and the interiors, the FSL company, were both doing 6 and 8 million in revenue, and now collectively combined they're on the brink of 110 to 120, and I've still lived in the same apartment. So I think for me, like probably go It's important, and it's a real great thing to be able to not have to check your bank account when you go and pay for dinners and stuff. But like, I'm pretty kind of chill on the lifestyle I live in, and man, every dollar I get, I'll keep 10 cents of it, and the rest goes back to growing this thing, And I think that's what motivates me, the challenge underneath it.
Love that. So what is like, one of the things, let me start again. One of the things we share in our journey is we both started a business at almost identical ages. I was 20, you were 21, as I understand. And so from what I understand is like we both didn't have, I guess, a boss or someone to be like, okay, you do this and the next step's here, and like no one to learn from. How did you learn the skills you have today?
Like I was always pretty cunning. Like I was always kind of quite curious. I was always asking questions since I was a kid. Again, I was infatuated with money and how it's made. So I was always asking questions like, my mum and dad would always be like, you can't ask people how much they earn. You can't ask how much that school costs to go to. I'm like, why, But, there's a couple of things. Like I did 3 years of my building apprenticeship from school till I was 21. And I had a boss called Corey. It's funny, he's the only boss I've really had. And his name's still saved in my phone as Corey Boss. You know what I mean? And I text him kind of once a year. But I learned enough to know that there's a margin on most things. And that kind of motivated me, and that's all I ever knew. So I knew that there was one avenue of margin that was being created off me while I was working for him. And I just knew I could go and replicate that. And if I could get scale, then game on, I was like, man, he's making $6 an hour off me. And he was open about that, which was cool, where a lot of people aren't, especially in New Zealand. They get real weird about talking about money. Then you got me asking 100 questions. But so he was open enough with there, and then I'd get driven to work on some of our jobs from basically the guy that we would go and subcontract into. And he would tell me, his name was Carl, he'd tell me he would make money off rentals and how he'd do his thing. So I was just really inquisitive. So I guess as and people that start to get some scale, there's just another zero at the end. So whether it's one rental or one person you're making $6 an hour off, 1,000, do you know what I mean? So I guess probably just the ingredients I knew, and how I baked it was up to me, So I didn't really have it, but then I did get a chairman effectively, or a mentor. Started out as a mentor, then a chairman from about 2 years in.
No, yeah.
And his name's Rob, and he has single-handedly changed the way I've been able to operate, and he has definitely intercepted some decisions that I would have made without him, which I wouldn't be sitting on this podcast today if it was the case. But he's also stopped some decisions I would have made, which probably would have put us into a bit of financial strife and actually put us into a really tricky position, right? His explanation is, he says, geez, every time I catch up with Israel on a board meeting, I'm just trying to hang on to his tail and not let him get too far away from me. So yeah, like I guess in the initial stage is learning about what ingredients it takes, and then 2 years in I was going hammer and tong and just all gas, no brakes really. And then kind of tucked under Rob's wing, and his partner Sarah was also really helpful up until he and I kind of started working a bit more. And then he's been really insightful. He's a hell of a lot more conservative than I am, so it's really awesome to kind of have my risk appetite versus his. I hate to know where I've been with that.
So what's the biggest challenge he's done for you personally?
The biggest challenge?
Yeah.
Man, just like he challenges me to operate in ways that instinctively or naturally I wouldn't. I'm overly critical, and I fixate the shit out of things, right? Like I just cannot get my mind off certain things. He's been telling me I'm on the spectrum for years and years. I was about to ask. And then I actually went and found out I was. And then I was going, mate, you're bang on. So I just think he probably challenges my behaviour, and he can see roadblocks ahead of me that I'm not able to see. So it's just challenging my norm. And when I'm someone that's so, I'm pretty one-dimensional, like that's hard. And it kind of really pulls them from. So yeah, challenging my personality which is a pretty stubborn one, So and he's never said yes or no to me. He always would say, "Oh, why don't you go and have a think about this?" I'm like, "Man, give me a fucking answer, dude."
That's the best kind of mentor.
Yeah, I know.
It takes a lot for, I think one of the things that holds a lot of founders and leaders back is they want to be, they want to give the advice. They want to tell you, you should do this and that.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of restraint
Yeah.
and a good mentor to be like, well, that's not me. I'm just pushing and questioning you to get you to the answer.
Yeah. And I think that is really awesome. Like, he is entrepreneurial, right? But he's kind of worked in big, massive kind of chief executive roles, and he is endeavoured on some, he's got a big business that he's founded with a bunch of other people recently, but it was a great balance for me to kind of, and he's always really honest, and I think I'm really open to honesty. Like I said to him, I was like, man, I can't wait till there's over 100 mil, and so you reckon I'll be good when we're at 100 mil? He goes, no. He goes, you won't be much value to this business operationally when it goes beyond 100. He goes, you are just not that brain. He goes, in that process and system orientation that's required to be at the helm of that kind of business. He said, that's not where you're going to be adding strength. You're kind of like, I'd rather that honesty, you know what I mean, than chasing a dream that if you didn't ask the question, you wouldn't get the answer to. So
how do you combat that?
Get great people.
Yeah.
Get great people in the team that can do a better job than I can in a load of verticals. I'm good in some areas, but I'm fucking awful in the others. Do you know what I mean? And I try my best to try and not get too over invested in those areas, but it's tough. You go, geez, it's hard. The biggest thing I'm working on with our senior leadership team at ALH right now is, we've got the COO, and then we've got myself, and we've kind of got this delegated authorities list. And the kind of common feedback we've kind of gone out and sought after is that the lines get a bit blurry as to who we're reporting to. And that's my fault, right? Like, I get so excited when an issue arises. I'm like, shit, I'll come and fix it. And everyone's like, fuck off, Izzy, leave us to it. So, and I just need to get better at that. But again, having some advice and some guidance to let me know that actually the business is worse off when I'm in there than better off when I'm out is just, it's a learning,
Have you heard the story of Ben Francis, the Gymshark CEO?
I've heard a few.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Maybe let me be more specific. So, a number of years ago, I heard this on a podcast, and it always stuck with me. So there was like a point in time, I think it was like year 3 or year 4, where Gymshark had exceeded 100 million. And he just realized, I can no longer be the CEO. It no longer makes sense because, I'm, I was 20-something years old. It just doesn't make sense. And so he steps down and he becomes the chief product officer.
Yeah.
Business grows and he realizes, I'm not good enough to be the chief product officer anymore. The business is too big. Chief marketing officer, and just continuously steps down. Yeah. And then I think it was only 2 or 3 years ago, he's like, I'm now ready.
Back.
I'm now ready. And I think it's that, is one of the biggest limiting factors for so many founders. Is this battle, which is I've created this thing, and so you do have a sense of pride and ego. Yeah. But realizing no, what is best for the business may not be me here right now. Yeah. But I can do what is required to get there at another time. Yeah. And I think that takes incredible amounts of humility.
Yeah.
That's I don't know if I've got it in me.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I think the thing like I said, I'm a trusting person of those that I trust, right? But I don't allow feedback from many people at all. Do you know what I mean? I don't seek feedback from people that I'm not inspired by. And that might sound stubborn or arrogant, but it's just true, right? And I'll take feedback from those people. And when I hear it, I just remind myself I'm fortunate to be getting that feedback. And I think, at the moment we're in such an exciting place in our business. I think we'd probably be in the top 4 in New Zealand for size. Wow. In our industry, from a still start 9 years ago. And I sit there and I go where can I add value right now while everyone in our senior leadership team is growing? I need to keep getting out of their way. Little things, right? We've got a rule in our business that every branch has to exercise every morning, once a week, and that is non-negotiable, right? So I sit there, I go, I was in Tauranga on Monday, overnighted, and if anyone's travelling into branch, they have to arrive the night before and do a team workout the next morning, right? So I turned up there and I was kind of, all right, what time are we working out? And oh, 6:15. I was like, nah, team, that's bullshit. I said in Auckland at HQ, we meet at 5:50 and the workout starts at 6. You'll never be better than Auckland if you don't be better with this, beating the standards. So, you know, I was like, cool, we're meeting at 5:45 and we're going to do this workout and then we're going to jump in the ocean. It's a bit colder here then, in New Zealand than it is here. So, you know, we then go and do the jump in the ocean. It's like, all right, well, what is it? What's important to ALH? And it's those behaviours and those standards that have built it. You know, and then I'm on the plane that day to Wellington and same thing. Go and do a workout at 6, meet just before 6 and we go and jump in the ocean and you know what I mean? So it's just those little behaviours and those standards that I think as the business grows and I probably get a bit more time to see things a bit differently, what has made this business where it is the standards and the behaviours and just intensifying the shit out of those and never losing them. Do you know what I mean? We've like one of my best friends is a guy, same name as me, Israel. We call him Dagger. He was a former All Black. And he's coming on to our board from April 1. And, you know, hearing the standards that, you know, the All Blacks team at the moment isn't the All Blacks that it probably was 6 or however many years ago. Not that I'm a major watcher of rugby, but, you know, something that since he and I have been spending more and more time together is the standards and the behaviours that they had in that environment that won 2 World Cups. And I thought, well, my chairman actually said, geez, we should get Dagger on our board. He said that high performance culture, that mentality with what you believe in, he said, shit, let's add turbos to this fucking engine and get going, you know? So we're always conscious of that stuff. And I think that's probably quite a foreign way to think, especially in New Zealand.
That's so
cool. When, you know, it's like, what can we do outside of the business? And yeah, man, it's awesome, and people love having high performers and winners around, you know what I mean? I'm probably, you know, we came over here a while ago, we're down in Bondi, we're having, you know, you'll stop a walk and be like, let's have a race around the flags. Who wins, you know? Super competitive friendship and the rest of it. So creating that and the team love it, you know what I mean? So
that's so good. So I'm a huge believer that like every founder has an unfair advantage. So at a particular point in time, whatever it might be, you have something that is unfair to the market because you just do it better, whether it be a mindset, you know, discipline, whatever it is.
Yeah.
What's Izzy's unfair advantage?
Probably speed, how quickly we do things, and how willing we are to do things, and actually every day's a new day. So many people hang on to shit for too long. It's like, I've got this rule, right? Well, first and foremost, I've got a rule with myself. If I go to sleep tonight on a Thursday and I wake up on Friday and the problem that I faced or fronted on today, I wake up and it's still a problem tomorrow, I have to solve it because ain't no way I'm going to bed 2 nights in a row with a problem. So we have to have pace to solving our issues. Otherwise, it creates toxicity and it's poisonous. Everyone fucking hates poison. Do you know what I mean? And so I would say our pace. You know, I was down in Wellington. We own 5 of our buildings, right? None of our competitors own their own buildings. You know, we've got $10 million of property underpinning our growing, you know, services-based recruitment business. So we buy buildings quickly. We fit out businesses quickly. We create environments quickly. So that's what I would say we do as a whole, but I'm pretty adamant I've probably only met 1 or 2 people that would probably be willing to work more than me in a day. You know what I mean? And I'm proud to admit, I know I can identify those, but yeah, probably I would die on the hill before I gave up, you know?
I can, this is going to sound funny. And I, you know what? I'm just going to go right ahead and assume Kate is going to be listening to this today. So shout out to Kate and maybe Nick too. Shout out to Nick. I sat across the table from Kate only a couple of months ago and I saw it in her eyes and I'm seeing it in your eyes. Yeah. The obsessive nature. Yeah. It's like, as I can see, like, I'm almost looking like I'm like prey right now. Like it is, I'm bullish on New Zealand. Is this what the rest of the New Zealand founders are like? Or are you two just like
There's just
outliers?
not that many of us, man. You know, Kate and Nick are friggin' awesome people, right? And hence, like I said, why I'm on this. But, you know, we all hung out with my partner Tobes for a weekend down in Queenstown a few months ago, and I was so inspired by hanging out with them, which is cool. You know, they're at a different age. They're a lot younger in the business journey, but, you know, like it was just cool to hang out, you know, and they were kind of like, oh, well, like, why are you hanging out with it? Like, why? And I'm like, man, like, there's just not enough people doing this, and shit, let's have a bit of fun. And we were just constantly just chewing each other's ears off and talking about what and this and that and this and how we can all be better. And I came away from it really motivated.
That's
So
sick.
they're just cool people, and cool people are hard to come by sometimes.
What's the biggest challenge of building a business in New Zealand?
The scale, like what I was saying when we were before we jumped on air, right? Like there's only 500 businesses in New Zealand that do over 100 million in revenue. And when you're trying to scale a business, you think about how little talent there is that can help you achieve that. Because at ALH, it's about our people, man, and we have awesome people. And probably we just don't have the opportunities and the scalable customers and things to go and do that. You know, we have 1,000 people working out for ALH day in, day out on sites.
Jesus.
We're
Solid.
small compared to Aussie companies. Do you know what I mean? That's why I'm like, "God, give us a bit of that pie." So I would just say the general opportunity and the talent pool, you know, like we've been around just over 9 years. My commitment I make to my team, and that I'm hell bent on being stubborn and never compromising on, is I want to create roles and positions that people can get in ALH that they couldn't get for 5 years' time out anywhere else. So let's make the biggest, best, most paying, highest responsibility roles for young Kiwis. And that's the thing. So, but it's taken us a long time to get that team together, you know. So yeah, the scale is just tricky. And I don't compete with anyone in New Zealand. Like I don't look at ALH and go, we want to, I'm like, fuck those guys, man. Like, you know, like, and I don't say that disrespectfully, because there is some competitors that I do respect. You know, there's some competitors in our market that I think have generally done a great job, but where's your ambition? We're the only guys that have jumped over the ditch and have given it a crack. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm out there looking at like, who's the biggest recruitment companies in the world? And it's like, you know, Adecco, they're doing 22 billion. I'm like, yeah, let's go. You know? The goal was 100 mil, and I'm sitting there going, geez, let's go for a bill. You know, what do we got to do? So it's, yeah, the scale, we just don't have it in New Zealand. And genuinely, if I wasn't exploring and being ambitious enough to look overseas, I would be worried that I hinder the growth opportunities for people in our business. You know, imagine if I'm a proud Kiwi, and imagine if our head office is in New Zealand and we've got global roles based out of New Zealand. From a 21-year-old that started something, you know, that gets me going. You know, I want to help change people's lives within our business and put them in roles that they can earn more money and create lovely homes for their family and opportunities that they wouldn't be elsewhere. And I know that our competitors don't do that in our market. So, yeah, the scale.
Love it. What have you what have you learnt from the New Zealand operations that you've now brought over to Australia?
It is so transactional here in Australia. They don't give a shit about going out for beers or playing golf or, you know, having a night out or 3 nights out in a row. You know, it's like give us the best price.
Yeah.
And we don't even need to hear from you. So we've come into Queensland, right? We're out there, we're dropping off pies and cokes, we're trying to like interact and be really personable. And we've actually realised that is actually not what's overly important to Australians. They are less worried about that, and they just want the cheapest price for the most reliability, which isn't how we cut our teeth in New Zealand, right? Even though we're really the only ones doing that in New Zealand, we've almost had to dial it back in Aussie, because you come in, you try and be nice, right? And then we need to stop expecting other people are going to respect it as we do. And it's like, oh, all right, maybe we'll dial back and cut some of the price back, but that sucks because then we can't do the fun stuff. Like we do a ALH gold standard golf trip every year. Beautiful course down in Queenstown. Our top 32 customers, we all fly in. We have an amazing couple of days. It's a really exclusive golf course. It's Michael Hill, the jewelers, who just recently passed away. His golf course. It's only 200 members. It's really hard to get onto. You know, we're bringing one guy from Brisbane because the other's just like, oh, don't worry about it. You know, I'm like, mate, we'll fly into Queenstown. Yeah. 2 days of golf on us. Yeah. Come and have some fucking fun, man. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, no, don't worry about it. Like, it's like shit. So that's what I would say. And there's a lot more regulation here. Hell of a lot more regulation.
Interesting.
Barrier to entry in New Zealand is easy, man. You know what I mean? Like, it is super easy to start a business, and you actually have to have validation and you have to prove you've got X amount of, I think it was $500,000 in the bank to support cash flow and stuff like that to get your labour hire licence in Queensland and things like that. So yeah, there's a hell of a lot more red tape here.
Interesting.
And it moves a hell of a lot slower. But to give some financial perspective, our average charge out rate in Queensland is 50% higher than our average charge out rate in New Zealand, but our margin is half in Queensland. So our Queensland branch is like doing 200K a week in revenue. We might as well be doing 100 in New Zealand.
Yeah, right.
So we're doing double the work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's Rob said to me, my chairman, he goes, it's going to be brutal over there. You don't know how many New Zealand companies go and try. And I think like only 8% stay in there for longer than 5 years.
Really?
It is the like highest failure rate of expansion. Kiwis go, yeah, we can get a piece of the pie. And he goes, it's going to be brutal over there. Like, they're going to squeeze you out. They're going to starve you of oxygen and revenue. No, fuck, don't worry about that, man. I got it. He goes, it's going to take you twice as long and it's going to cost you twice as much. He was bang on. It's probably going to be triple, but like we're here for the long term, and actually, this is the place we desire to get going to create more opportunity.
It's actually very rewarding sitting here and listening to this, because it's like, hearing like the Australian like land of opportunity. It feels so weird because this is all I know. It's like our backyard. Hearing the transactional piece as you start describing that, I'm like, yeah, fuck, I don't. I don't do any of that stuff either.
And it's fascinating. We're in New Zealand. It's like, oh, what can you do for me if I give you this?
Yeah, we had a lot of clients in New Zealand, and I remember they would be like, when are you coming over? When are we doing all these things? I'm like, what are you talking about?
And no, it is. It's fascinating. Like that is probably the biggest thing that just blows my mind. The lack of that kind of rapport. Like I always say, like ALH, we run a no dickhead policy, right? And our customers, I generally wouldn't trade with if I wouldn't go and have a beer with them. It's hard to have beers with people when I was like,
So from your kind of learning lessons, like when you first, the first few years of your business to now, like what are the things that you no longer, let me start again. What are the things that you believed were true in business that you no longer believe are true now?
Oh, that's a great question. Nothing comes to mind straight away. I probably believed it was easier than it was. Probably touching back on the spectrum piece, right? Like you figure out pretty quickly that if I didn't have that, if I didn't have like a bit of a to the normal, like a neurodeficiency that I have been able to create as a strength, I would have given up a long time ago, And I actually sit there and I go, I don't look at people that haven't started businesses. I sit there and I go, like, I would not tell my kid to start a business young, and I would tell my friends not to, because it's brutal, man. And you got to have a lack of something, but more of something else to do it, and again, figuring out I've got probably a bit more of a lack of, emotional availability and empathy, but then I've got more ability to not care so much for certain stuff. So yeah, it's definitely not easy. It's harder than I thought, way harder than I thought. And yeah, it's brutal. Like I said, it's been 100 times tougher than I thought it was going to be. And it's not for the faint-hearted, especially in a place where there's little scale. I was kind of thinking 10 years time, like, how do I get this business or the core of this business to $1 billion in revenue? That's the way I'm thinking every day this year. Like I sit and go, all right, what do we have to do to get to $1 billion? Do we create a form of a private equity vehicle to then start acquiring competing businesses or similar or service-like businesses? And I said that to Rob, and I said, man, I've got this great idea, 5-10 years time, why don't we do this? He goes, we don't have that scale here, man. Like, we're better off just going and getting great people from the industries and bringing them into our system. I'm like, yeah, there's only 500 businesses in New Zealand doing 100 mil, it's, so when you think about it, like I said, it's, I thought it was going to be easy, and man, it's been brutal, and it ain't for everyone. And I think the one thing I've probably realized, it's probably not for the neuronormal, and in all honesty, well, it might be to some degree, but I'm sure you could probably vouch for it. People that have probably had similar scales to businesses like you and I have and more, geez, you don't hang out with them and think, yeah, you're bloody normal. You know, like, you're a bit fucking odd, mate. You know, it's like, aren't we all? You know, like that is honestly, like you sit there and you go, geez, yeah, we're all a bit odd, to be fair. We've all got our quick quirks and stuff like that. So I think, you know, and it's quite isolating in New Zealand because there's not many people, you know, so that's what I would say.
Oh, fuck, that was good. Yeah, you're a strange cat.
Yeah, exactly.
What's holding you back from getting to $1 billion?
Time. You know, it's time and market. That's the biggest thing we've found, you know, like.
But I mean you personally.
Oh, me personally. Probably time. And that would be it. Like I just need a bit more time to get into a bit more markets and go from there. I don't sit there and go, something's going to stop me. I don't see something and go, oh, that's going to be that's going to get in the way. Fuck that. Like, it's just time, you know. I'm 31, man. I've got a gangly ass shoulder, broke it and dislocated on Christmas Day trying to wrestle my mate. It slowed me down a little bit physically, and I feel a little bit probably less fit and healthy this year, but I don't sit there and think I'm growing older and slowing down on that front. You know, my brain's just speeding up. I feel younger and fresher than I ever have. I'm more energetic, more motivated. Every day I wake up, I feel more ambitious than I did the day before. So it's just time. I just need time.
Fucking oath. Oh, damn it. I had something so good. It was going to be a showstopper. So you mentioned time there, right? And one of the things in my my research, I saw this clip and you talked about compounding time, and it brought a smile to my face because that is exactly what I talk about. The compounding time, for me specifically, is about between idea and execution. So if you like look over a 10-year journey, and instead of taking 3 months, you have an idea, you have 10 meetings, and you finally execute it. If you have the ability to have an idea, execute immediately, and then you look across that 10-year journey, like the compounding effect of quick decision making.
Yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned about compounding time. Talk to me about that.
Compounding time is what I would say, probably back to your question around what's different with me, is I fixate on that, right? Like if I can do 4 hours more a day than my competitor, then shit, that stacks up pretty quick. Do you know what I mean? On a working week, it's another 20 hours. It's half a working week. Over a fortnight, that's another full week, you know? It's huge, man. And it's, like the more I can do now, the more opportunity I can create later. I don't look at it and go, the more I do now, the more I'll have. It's the more freedom to grow. So the more time I allocate now is the more time I get to finding more opportunity. So, I think an apprenticeship in building takes 4 years. I think might be 8,000 hours. It's like, I remember like my boss saying, oh, it's 8,000 hours or something like that. I was like, shit, how can you do it in 1 year? It's a bit different. You have to have time on site. But, and I've always thought that like that. And I kind of thought, man, I always thought to myself, in 10 years, I want to be the biggest player in our market in New Zealand. And it's taken some of our competitors 25 to get there. And I'm like, I'm not that guy. Let's get going. Let's beat them. So every bit of extra time I can, I've got my partner Tobes, she comes on the road with me for one trip a month. So she came on the road with me to Wellington. I actually find it really disorientating having my partner on the road with me because it kind of interrupts my workflow. But it was probably a little reminder of how much I get done when I'm on the road. Like, a normal day I'm kind of up around 5, but before I'm into a workout and I kind of get going, and then I'm probably on my first phone call at kind of 6:30. And then I'll kind of commit to ALH for the working day. And I've got a rule, me and Tobes have got a rule that I'm home for dinner every night when I'm in Auckland. So I'll get out of the office. I'm not an office warrior. Like I'll get out of the office at 4:30, and then I'm home for an early dinner because, man, I get way too fucking hypo if I have dinner late. So I have to get my sugar intake and my food in earlier. And then, after dinner, we'll kind of go through the day, what she did, what I did, and then I'm back online at kind of 6:37. I get super excited because Aussie's 3 hours behind us. So then I'm like, cool, man, I'll catch up with the Aussie team. It's 4 o'clock there, it's 7 o'clock here. I love the time zone difference. And then I can get that Aussie flow through till about 8 or 8:30. And then I jump on and speak to the CEO of the interiors company as a mate and as a founding, colleague, and talk it through. And then I do a catch up till probably about 9 or 10 at night. So I sit there and I go, I'm kind of doing 4 hours. I'm doing 20 hours more in the working week. And then on a Saturday, I finish my working week on a Saturday. I go for a run. Often with, there's a guy in the office in Auckland called DP, and we go out for a run and we try and drag a few of the team and do 10 or 15 clicks on a Saturday. And then Saturday mid-morning till Sunday mid-morning is my day off. And I'm back online Sunday lunchtime.
You're a sicko, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Not overly normal, But it's huge, right? Like I said, geez, if I can do another 20 hours a week, then my competitors or anyone else in the market, and then over a fortnight, do you know what I mean? Over a month, that's two working weeks that people are fucking sleeping or offline. I'm online. I'm working. I'm growing.
What's been the cost?
Not much, really. It's been a lot of money, a lot of investment. We pour a lot of cash back into it. I've got incredible friends. I don't have many, but I don't want many. And I think the cost has been probably at a family time. My family will still live in Gisborne, but they get it. So I wouldn't say there's been a cost. I think And if I felt that there was a cost to doing what I love, or someone put a cost to doing what I love on me, then they're probably the wrong person to be around me.
Someone's listening today and they're like, Izzy has no balance. What do you think about work-life balance? Personally,
fuck work-life balance. I don't want work-life balance. If you want to get ahead, you can't have it, But I actually want people at ALH to have work-life balance. I don't want them to inspire to not have it. Do you know what I mean? I want people to go home early. We've just put summer hours in place from November and December, where you got to get out of the office at 1 o'clock on a Friday. Go and be with your family. That's what people long for. That's what the majority of humans long for. Time with friends, time with family. I don't. I long for work. I love it. And I long for time with Tobes. And Tobes is really understanding. And then a few best friends of mine, I catch up with them every fortnight, So work-life balance, it's not a thing if you want to really achieve scale. And I'm happy to be proven wrong. But, there'll come a time, and there is times where people want that. But I just don't ever see a future where I want that, And I think for me, it's energy balance is what I long for. I need to be able to work 18 hours a day and be able to do something for me for 30 to 60 minutes a day that feels like I only worked 8. And that's a simple run, simple workout. We've got a sauna at our head office. Jump in the sauna, freshen up, sweat it out, go again. We've got a nice bath in the office. Get a bit of a high, get buzzing. So, yeah, look, I don't think work-life balance is something that I ever long for, but it is something that I want for people around me. And I genuinely take some kind of responsibility and ownership not to have it so people around me can have it.
Oath. Can I be honest with you? Mm-hmm. I knew you were going to say that. So I asked you because I was like, we're going to clip this shit in the trailer. It's going to be great. And you lived up to my expectation. I have one last question for you. And I know, I honestly, from this conversation, you're pretty much at the start of your journey. Again, I can see it in your eyes. I can hear it in the belly. I asked you, what's going to hold you back? And you're like, just time. There's nothing stopping this man. So I know it's going to be hard to think about it. But if you take a moment and you reflect on the journey that's been, what are you most proud of?
I am most proud of the opportunities that we've created for people. And I genuinely am incredibly proud to see our team growing and developing in a system that I don't think is available anywhere else in New Zealand. So I think the platform that we've created for people to come in and grow in this business makes me really proud. And I know that people are earning a lot more money for themselves and their families than they would elsewhere. And that is probably what I'm genuinely most proud of, like things change. Firstly I was most proud to get more than $100,000 salary, but then that changes pretty quick. And I think when you stop worrying about the pennies, the other stuff becomes what makes it enjoyable. And that keeps me energized. I genuinely have it as a responsibility of mine to keep creating pathways that aren't available anywhere else in New Zealand at ALH. And that's what I'm proud of.
Why? Why is that the thing you're most proud of?
Because I've had that happen for me, right? Like I started a pathway for myself, but I've also had a mentor and a chairman in Rob who's helped me see things and achieve things that I wouldn't have without him. So I feel as a young New Zealand entrepreneur, I hate that word because I don't think I'm as creative as people like yourselves, like I generally. So it's a weird word to kind of put as at next to me, but I've been a beneficiary of someone helping create and see pathways for me. So I want to do the same where we are. So giving it back, I guess.
Love it. So I might take a moment here. I can see exactly why Kate wanted me to meet you. She's like, you got to meet Izzy. He's a legend. She's like, and like, there's so many things that you've shared today. I'm like, fucking hell, we're like weirdly similar. And as soon as you said a bit of neurodivergence, I was like, oh, here we go. Yeah. I was like, so, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. I cannot not see this outcome that you're going after. It's been good. I've enjoyed this. Thank you very much.
Loved it, man. It's been cool.
Good
Pleasure
man.
and appreciate it.